So, just how fast do the horns grow on a painted desert ram? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hey everybody. Yes, today we're going to talk about the boys. The boys are usually the one that get the most interest. They're here in the shade. Hanging out in the shade, are you guys? It might be about as much they're hanging out trying to avoid the flies as they are the shade. I think I might have to see if we can do something about that. They got a pour on. I don't know. We might see if we can do something to help them out a little bit with the flies when it's all said and done. That seems to be what bothers them. All right, we're going to talk about horn growth. That's what I get asked about a lot. I get a lot of people asking about horn growth, so that's what we're going to cover. Let me go inside. I want to get in, get out of the sun. It's going to be hot today, and we'll discuss horn growth in there. All right, get inside here. Before we get into this, one other thing real quick. I want to show you what I've been working on this week. Here's a picture from back when I was doing a video a long time ago. If you look at the back wall, that is my shop back there. Workshop was behind that one wall back there. I wasn't using enough of it. I decided to change it. I decided I want to make things a little better because you can see in front, I got a round bale sitting there. That's the way I feed all winter long. That round bale sits out there. It does kind of cut down my space a little. So I decided, let's go ahead and make a change. So this past week, what I've been doing, I took out the wall. So what I ended up coming down doing is pulled the wall down, rebuild it. I have this area, this would be now 12 by 10 area. I pulled up my floor in two sheets off the floor. I braced up everything underneath the floor real good. I've got that all braced up nice and solid now so I can flip a round bale over on top of that when I'm needed. I brought my grain, that had been over next to the side where I got a bunch of junk now. I brought that over. I like to keep my grain in here. I mix it up with that, dump into here. So now all my grain's gonna be here. I got this about done. The only thing I have left to do, I'm going to take out those two windows. There used to be 4 of them across there in the shop. I'll take these 2 out and I'm going to put in a door. And my main reason is, before when I fed, as you can see, the round bale used to sit right here on the ground. So I'd peel off here, go in the catch pen, go out the other door with the catch pen, go out and feed them. Now if the round bale's sitting here and I have a door there, now I just go straight out the door. I can feed them grain, I can feed them hay. It's going to make life a whole lot easier, and it's going to free up all my floor space. Part of the reason for that is, as soon as I clear all this junk out, anybody want a big old TV? I got one of those. It's going to go in the trash, I guess. I want to clean this out, because once I clean that out, that'll give me more room come spring. If I want to put a couple lambing pins in here and put a ewe with a couple lambs in here, I can do that to give me more space on the other side. So, just trying to free up a little space anyway. All right, let's talk about horns. Let me hang this up, we'll talk about horns. So, how fast are the horns going to grow on the painted desert ram? And I've seen a formula where they kind of talked about it, and a few people have said it's pretty accurate. So for now, let's go with that. And basically what it says, measure your ram at 1 year old. And let's say your ram has a horn, and we're not going to get into all the measurements for a gold star. All I care about for now is length of horn, all right? So we're going to take our ram at 1 year old, and we're going to measure the length of his horn. And we're going to say it is 20 inches long, all right? So if he has a horn that is 20 inches long at the end of 1 year, you can take that number, divide it in half, which is 10, and on year 2, you should be able to add that to it. So if he's got 20 at 1 year, he should have 30 at 2 years. For the end of 3 years, you divide it in half again. Divide in half is 5. So he could have a 35-inch horn at the end of 3 years. Now, remember, we always say it all starts in genetics. That's what I've been preaching from day one when I started making these videos. Genetics from both sides. The best genetics are going to give you the best horns and the best everything else that you want to get. So that's what you're looking for, that in your feed program. But you got to get a start somewhere to get a rough idea of what you're going to get for growth. And that should give you that formula kind of gives you a start. Now, let's take a look and see what we've done, some of the stuff. All right, we're gonna start with stew. Now, let's take that 20, 10, and 5 little idea I showed you on horn growth for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Stew in April of this year was 22.5 inches. And that would be at 1 year and like 2 weeks. So we're saying a year old stew was 22. So if stew picks up and this next year picks up 11, then he's going to be 33, then about 5.5. That should put him at 38. That's pretty aggressive. You know, if he holds that all the way through for 3 years, I'll be very happy. If he gets that big, I'd be very happy if he goes that route. But everyone's going to be different. He might be growing fast where he may slow down a little later, where another ram might start slow and pick it up later, and we'll go over that in just a second. But let's see, what you want to know, all right, how fast will they grow that way? You tell me so many inches in a year. Let's take a look. We're going to go take a look here. A year ago, in June, I got Skeeter and Stew. Here's Skeeter and Stew in June of 2021. And here's Stew, 2022. And Skeeter, June 2022. So that kind of gives you an idea of what kind of growth they did in 1 year. Now, let me give you another one. Let's go with Stony here in a minute. Here's Stony in July of 2021, because that's when I got him. Here he is in June 2022. And you can say his growth is not quite as much of theirs. And I'll agree with that. Stony's is not. Does that mean he's not going to grow as big as them? No, I don't think so. To me, Stony was a slow grower. When we got Stony, I got him in July of last year. I didn't think he grew very fast, all right? So he seemed to grow kind of slow. He's really started picking up now this spring. And in the fall, like say that in October, November, up in through till say the first year, they might not grow as much in that period of time. At least from what I've been told, that's breeding season. That's the time we're going to be fighting. You're going to see more rams fighting at breeding season naturally. And, you know, if they were out in the wild. So they don't grow as much during that season because that's their fighting time, so they don't grow as much then. That's what I've read. That's what I've been told. Whether that carries over Painted Desert, I don't know for sure or not. But I just thought Stony was a little slow. He's catching up now. And that's what you're going to have. You're going to see stuff like that where one's going to grow faster than the other, so you don't want to make judgments too soon. Now, if I come back to Skeeter and Stew, all right, here is Thriller, Pavlok Farms Thriller. That is their sire. Now, that picture was taken, I think he was about a little over 3.5, not quite 3.5, when they took that picture. He was measured at 3 years old. He measured 106, or just a little over that. Now, that's easily Gold Star. Gold Star is 94, but he's never been officially recorded as Gold Star. The guy that owned him measured him at 106. He told me he got him measured. He sold him before he bothered to record him. He didn't get him recorded before he sold him. The new owner, as far as I know, as far as what I've been told, the new owner hasn't bothered to record him yet. Will he? I don't know. If he's raising for breeding and interested in that, he should. If he's raising shooters and all he cares about is I want something with big horns to sell for a shooter, he may never register him because he's not going to care. Shooter, you know, nobody asks for papers at a high fence hunting operation, so a lot of times those guys don't care. I'd like to see it, because I'd like to see Stew be a son of a Gold Star, but there's not much I can do about it. If they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. I can't do anything about that. So, but basically that's what you're going to get. After a year, you can take a look at Stew there with Skeeter, as I said, in 2021, and 1 year later, we're at this point right here. So he's done a pretty good job. We always talk a lot. It's all about genetics. He's got some pretty good genetics back in there that kind of help him out. But then again, Stony's got really good genetics too, probably even better genetics than Stew. Yet Stony seems to be a little bit slower. He's catching up pretty fast, but he started out pretty slow as far as I was concerned. And that brings me to when do you kind of decide who's going to be good or not? Well, let me give you this shot just to give you something different. Let me show you these two lambs right here. All right. A lot of difference. I mean, they're young, but a lot of horn and almost no horn on the other one. So natural reaction is, well, Definitely the guy with the horns, he's got some good genetics going for him. If they're both eating about the same, if they're being fed about the same, and they're not that old as of yet, clearly look at the good genetics, and maybe the other one doesn't quite have those genetics. Well, problem is they're brothers. They're twin brothers. So same mom, same dad, same everything. One's a little slow starting, one's just popping and taking right off. So is there anything, is one wrong than the other? No, they should be both fine. And here's the interesting part, for maybe considering the slow one a little, the sire is Stony. And he's a little slow growing. He started out a little slow. He's picking up pretty good now, but he started a little slow. Well, maybe this guy's going to be just like Stony. Maybe he's going to be just like him, be a little slower starting, but he'll eventually pick it up and catch up with the other one. Seems we see that sometimes, and that's why they always say don't get in a hurry to judge on rams. Give them plenty of time. Even Stony at 6 months. You say, I don't know, now Stony at a year, well, that's a whole lot better. Stony looks a lot better today than he looked a year ago when I got him. So that makes a big difference too. So you don't want to get in a hurry with that. But it's all about, okay, how fast they grow? Well, you got a chance to see them. I showed you, here's Stu with just, June of 21. Stu in June of 22, the growth. Stony, July 21. Stony, July or June of 22, the growth is there, and they'll get there. Now, here's one real other thing real quick. Horn shape. And that's something a lot of people like to talk length, and we're big about length, but what about shape of horns? And I think I got a good shot here. You can see three things. First, we're going to take Stu. Stu's, you look at the horns, are kind of more upright. I think Stu is going to have a tighter set of horns. Stu's horns might be a little bit more like what we commonly think the bighorn sheep or stuff like that, or the Alaskan dolls, where the tighter, and then flaring out at the end. That might be a little more Stu. And even though Stu's sire here, Thriller, he's got that long out like that, I'm not sure if Stu's going to do that or not. Stu's got a Stuenberg ewe, and the Stuenberg is more of the tighter thing, so he might stay with that rack. Now, Stony, on the other hand, Stony, look, he's flatter. Stony seems to be a little flatter. I think he's going to do the curl outs and go wide. I think he'll do that. His grandsire on both sides is. What's funny is his sire didn't. But I think he'll go out farther. And then that brings us to Skeeter. And look at Skeeter. He looks totally different yet. Because Skeeter came out of a Ural ewe. And the Urals have the more heart-shaped type of horn or something like that, similar to that in a sense. He seems to be getting his horn a little from that. So you've got three rams, and I think you're going to have three totally different horn styles when it's all said and done. I think Stu's is going to stay a little bit. I don't think he's going to tread way out. I think Stony, and on the other hand, he's going to do that. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like at 2 years, 3 years, down the line, see what those horns start to do. But that gives you a rough idea on horns. Try to give you a little deal. You can see them when they start. You can see them a year later. You can see some of the growth you're going to get. Genetics and feed play a lot, but at least I wanted to give you a little bit of idea what you're going to get for horn growth. Somebody's not real happy over here. I think moms and babies are they've been going in and out from the pasture, so somebody's probably trying to find the other one right now. Hey, that's all I got for this week, guys. See you again next week.